Hello, YouTube, Sapphire and Steel Lorcana Community. Today, I am finally back with episode 2 of the Select Few podcast. And today, I have some very awesome guests here on the channel. I have a very awesome episode today to bring to you guys because I have two of the best Sapphire and Steel European players in the world, two European Continentals players who got to play in this past Lorcana Championship in Paris. And I'm gonna go ahead and let them introduce yourselves. Go ahead and start with returning guest Justin.
Hi, yeah, it's me again. You might have seen me in his last video, but yep, I play Blue Steel. I live in the Netherlands. I top 20th. I got 20th in the recent Continental Championship, and I qualified through Bochum where I top fourth.
Awesome. Congrats to you again on your placing. And then we have Mr. Harlan, the Pixelborn OG over here.
Yeah, hi guys. Yeah, I was back in the day a real pixel-born grinder and like online everyone knew. And then yeah, recently got to get through the LCQ. Not a great performance through the DLCs. I don't know, I can keep blaming best of two or grow up and just say I didn't have a good run. And sometimes that happens, it's TCGs. But yeah, the deck was really good. We ran in the LCQ and we carried it on to the next day and just had a blast really. I performed way better than I thought it would.
Yeah, no, congrats to you guys. I mean, even like just being able to travel to this tournament and you were able to win your pod, like a lot of the Sapphire Steel players in the 20 Lore Pro Discord, like were rooting for you. And it was just really awesome to see like every round, in the melee, like, oh, did he win? Did he win? Did he win? And the fact
Hmm.
that you got there, like, like not only good for you, but like it shows people who are going to the NA LCQs that are taking Sapphire Steel or not even Sapphire Steel, but like if you go, like that is a absolute 100% chance that you're able to qualify. So again, congrats to you, man. That was super cool. And Justin on his performance, getting 20th place. I believe Harlan, you got around 44th, 40th place.
42nd, I think, was my final standing. So top 64, better than half the room, but not the
Mm-hmm.
best. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, better than half the room, and being able to like say that you were also an LCQ qualifier, is
Mm.
awesome. And that's pretty
Yeah,
much what's gonna
especially when
be.
the whole room is. Yeah.
Yeah, no, like that room, I could imagine is literally like Pixelborn, season zero, just the tryhards of the tryhards, and that's gonna be like the first thing I want to get to you guys about this topic as we go on about Sapphire Steel and the meta. Pretty much, just if you can just recap your experience at the EU Nats. It must have been an awesome feeling. I can't wait for NA Nats to happen. But if you guys can just recap, your favorite, like your experience, your favorite moment, and just get to share to everyone who's watching how you guys experienced it. If Harlan, you want to start that off.
Yeah, I mean, when I went, I had a very interesting build that people have seen. It's not your typical blue steel. It's more low to the ground. It's like
Mm-hmm.
almost an aggro build. And I didn't really think much of my attempt. I was literally going to go for the LCQ. I even had in England, you can take a coach, like you can take a bus from Paris to England. So I had it booked to go home that day because I thought like I'm not going to make it. And then by like round three and round four, I was like messaging people like, can I have a place to stay tonight? Because it looks like I might be doing tomorrow. So yeah, that was amazing. I thought the event was really well run, and when you actually got to the EU sort of console, I got to play. I liked the environment. It was just very closed off. You couldn't have like players leaning over your shoulder, and everyone, like I say, I didn't feel it was the best environment for best of two. I'm gonna have a little moan about best of two, because everyone's playing so well and they know their deck so well. It was kind of like everyone won on the play, and then you just sort of hoped that your opponent bricked on the draw, or they weren't playing, or it was such a polarizing matchup that you could
Mm-hmm.
win on the draw. But besides that, yeah, I'd have preferred it to be best of three. But yeah, it was a really amazing experience. I think they really outdid themselves. Like they had like food on for us as well, but it was weird because it was like no one really wants to eat when you're trying to
Mm-hmm.
compete. And they had like full buffet food, and
Oh
stuff like
wow.
that. It was really good. And yeah, I think there was me, Justin, and one or two maybe other Blue Steel players in that room, still playing the deck, and of course, like most people like a little joke about Blue Steel at this point,
Mm-hmm.
myself included. The deck hasn't been performing as well as it did for the past three sets, but I've still got faith in it. And I think there was some really interesting cards we got in set six that I really got to show off, and I got to do it on stream as well. It was round one stream, which also they really outdone themselves there. Like when you got to play, you were on the main stage. There was a giant audience watching you. It had like all the Illuminaire like stuff around it. It was just really cool. Yeah, I preferred to have gone further, but it was a really good event.
Yeah, that sounds like a really awesome experience. I didn't even hear about like the food, so that's really cool that you mentioned that for them to like have that service for you guys. Really sounds like an awesome invite only tournament. And yeah, that's really awesome. I'm like, glad that you had a good time, and I'm glad you were able to get the LCQ finish again. Justin, was your experience similar to Harlan's?
Oh yeah, it was. So yeah, you know how like people keep saying that Blue Steel isn't really performing.
Mm-hmm.
Then I remember like the night before I was talking with some of my teammates and they were like they predicted that Blue Red would be the most popular deck in the format, and they were all gonna. They asked like, "What are you gonna bring to the tournament?" And I was like, "Yeah, I'm bringing Blue Steel," and they were like, "You are brave." Which was, I think their nice way of saying, "Why are you doing this?" Like in a blue red field. But
Mm-hmm.
I felt like I was comfortable with the deck. It was too late to turn back. I practiced the most with it. I remember starting my first round with a hand that seemed okay. Then when I shipped like three cards down, I drew Holy World, Lucky Dime. And I literally started questioning what I was doing. I was like, oh my God, why? Um, but yeah, I ended up drawing the first four rounds, which
Ouch.
in a
Mm.
challenge, yeah, right. In a challenge, this seems like a bad thing. Like
Mm-hmm.
I would be very sad if I drew my first four rounds in a challenge. But the funny thing was because of the player level at the Continentals, everyone was drawing. Like
Mm.
it was insane. It was a draw fiesta. I think Frank Carson joked that he might have gone for the legendary James Bond 007 record
007.
where
All those
you
draws.
finish with seven draws. Yeah. You know, kind of sad that I was 1 point off
Mm-hmm.
from making it to day two, but the Ice Palace and the Invitation to the Ball were beautiful cards. I was pretty happy with how it turned out. And as Harlan mentioned, the event felt really special. Like,
Mm-hmm.
they gave us all this catering, which was very nice. They had this nice performance by the French VA of Moana. And it was really a great experience. And I had a lot of fun. I don't know if the next one would be in Disneyland if they have a Continentals next year, but
Mm-hmm.
I hope it would be, the same grand experience we had.
Man, dude, that's awesome. Like, it's really, I know a lot of people who go to these tournaments. When I first started being a competitive player, I had this issue, but I no longer have this issue. Like, when you go to these tournaments, and it sounds like you guys, obviously, if you were to not make it to day two, it's unfortunate. But it doesn't sound like it ruined your guys' experience. It didn't sound like you guys were there with like a pout on your face. It sounds like overall you still had a very good time, and I think that's something really. I'm personally looking forward to it as I go to my Continentals. But again, like I'm glad you guys had a good time because I know a lot of people are really hard on themselves when they don't make it. Were you guys have like going to this tournament? For example, for you, Harlan, some people may argue like if you're gonna go to LCQ, are you gonna be okay with losing? Did that really affect you too much as you were going and planning to the LCQ, or were you just more like I'm there, just if I make it, I make it, and if not, it's all good?
Yeah, I mean, you sort of we play with TCGs where there's just so many variables, and it's like Justin mentioned his hand. It's
Mm-hmm.
like this is not a game where you can say, well, I need to get these cards, and
Mm-hmm.
sometimes it doesn't work out, and you just draw bad, and you have to take that into account. I think if you say you've played your best like on the day, it's fine. And yeah, I didn't really have any expectations. I only booked one of the slots. Like you
Mm-hmm.
could do an AM or a PM slot. I just booked a PM, and like I still thought like this deck had been performing very well in different environments and in testing, and I was like, it's fine. And the gentleman I made it with, like, we just both loved it. I was like, I'm too late in. I can't make another list. I'm just gonna use this one. And then like by round three, I'm like undefeated
Mm-hmm.
or whatever. I'm like, what is going on? This actually works. And then yeah, I brought it over to the day two, to the actual Continentals, and I was like, such imposter syndrome. I remember the round one, I played the guy on stream. He was on green purple, and in my head it was as long as I just don't get O2'd for the entire day,
Mm-hmm.
I'll be happy. And then I win game one versus him. I'm like, fine, that's great. I'm not going to get O2'd for the entire day, so I can go home happy with this. And yeah, it ran really well. Like my rounds were fine. Like the losses I got was against Green Steel that was pretty much, you know, where how green steel is sometimes.
Mhm.
If they're going to Diablo shift cove you, they're going to Diablo shift cove you. And then the game two, it was just on the draw, didn't have the gas. And then the red blue I played was someone in my testing group who has tested against this deck, probably the most any other red blue
Mhm.
players ever tested against this deck. So that was quite rough when we saw the pairings on
Mhm.
melee. But yeah, like I said, just had a great time. And like for me personally, like this isn't my job. Like
Mhm.
I can walk away from this and I'll be fine. So as long as I just have an enjoyable experience with friends and I've done my best at events, I'm usually quite happy with that. So yeah, just really happy with the weekend. I think if you beat yourself up over the losses, it's sort of like I don't know. Are you enjoying this? Like, what is that? It's
Mhm.
sort of,
At
it's
that
quite a
point,
rough
yeah.
mental state to be in. Yeah, it's and you know, you take the list you wanted to
Mhm.
take, you try your best and see how it works out. Of course, we all like the money you get from the
Mhm.
promos and
Of
stuff like that.
course, yeah.
We like the prestige from winning. We like
Mhm.
it when we get to go back to Discord and like we get all these new fancy emblems on 20
Mhm.
lore and stuff like that. We love that
Oh,
stuff, but
yeah.
yeah, but don't beat yourself up if it doesn't happen. And you're still an amazing player if it doesn't happen. It just wasn't your day that day. You know, it's how I think you got to take it.
Yeah, that's a really strong, and I'm really glad to hear like that mentality from you because I know a lot of people beat themselves up, and as like they're learning and continuing to grow in their space, it's just really all about like you can't like ruin your time there, right? You spent the money, you traveled, and make the best of it. Justin,
Mm.
how you said, right? You draw the first 4 rounds in a row. Were you? How do you take that? Like, do you? Um, go into this sour mood like like man this is getting harder, or at that point you're just like I'm already here, I'm having a good time, pretty much relating to what Harlan said.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, we're in Disneyland.
Mm-hmm.
It is supposedly the happiest place on earth. So, I mean, I'm not gonna beat myself
Mm-hmm.
up. I after the round four, I was like,
Mm-hmm.
okay, I just have to win the next three. I guess that's what's gonna happen. And to be fair, it came close. Like
Mm-hmm.
I won two out of three. So, in the end of the day, like you just have to that
Mm-hmm.
it's in the past. Just move forward, do what you can with your position, and at the same time, I was also saying like, okay, at worst, even if like I crash out in one of the latter rounds, I'm still in a great lot of friends in the area. It was nice
Mm-hmm.
meeting a lot of the great players, and the park is just nearby. It's a great place to be. So yeah, I think just have fun playing the game,
Mm-hmm.
and I love playing Blue Steel. I had fun playing the deck.
Mm-hmm.
I don't regret my choice. If I brought another deck, I probably wouldn't have had as much fun
Mm-hmm.
playing to the tournament. So yeah,
That's very good to hear, man. And I'm glad that both of you guys had a good time, and I'm glad you guys performed the way that you did. um, Now going forward, right, what the Sapphire and Steel players finally want to really get into is pretty much your reason for your deck choice. Again, I know you guys love Sapphire Steel, so you're just gonna stay on that. But you guys had two very different, very 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 different builds and two different play styles going into this tournament. And did these lists affect you on basically how the meta was, or was it just more like this is what I think Sapphire Steel is gonna be best at performing this weekend? What were your guys' thoughts on the meta, and do you predict it will be the same for NA? I'm gonna go ahead and let Harlan start off with that one.
Yeah, I mean, going into the LCQ and the EU Continentals,
Mm-hmm.
I kind of I don't know why I was crazy to think this. In my head, I assumed red blue was not dead, but I assumed it was going to be quite a smaller percent,
Mm-hmm.
just because purple at this point can go so fast and run over anyone. I just thought like bringing red blue felt like a bad choice for a lot of them. And I was completely wrong with that. Like I'll admit, like there was red blue had like the highest meta share. I only managed to play two over the whole weekend, but yeah, it was huge. And kind of where I was, I've been trying, of course, Blue Steel wheel and Blue Steel no wheel. Like at the end of set five, I was quite big on Sky's build with
Mm-hmm.
that Moyen had also popularized. I really like that build. But I kind of the card I really liked is Alice, like from the new set, and I just really wanted to use Alice. And I found with Lorcana, in my opinion, I think it's better to be the proactive player than the reactive player right
Mm-hmm.
now. Seeing as like, so our reaction is like ramp, put big Tinkerbell, Simba, whatever it is, grab your swords, like clear. And as any Blue Steel player knows, every like a lot of the bodies now have full health,
Mm-hmm.
and we're really struggling to clear. I saw R&B put it's simple, just ramp and do a double grab your swords. And it's like if we could do that, I would definitely be doing that every game.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't feel like I'm doing that very often.
Mm-hmm.
So I liked this build. It was a bit. It has, of course, no ramps, no items. It's more just put the pressure on them. Alice is technically a free quester as she gives one law. Ward seems a lot better than evasive or anything right now. Resist is awesome. I'm closing games out before turn 5 or 6 sometimes,
Mm-hmm.
which is just yeah, it's really fun deck to play. And it kind of got to a point where I just didn't want to go back to playing the ramp decks, and mainly because of the hand that Justin also, I'm going to mention it again,
Mm-hmm.
mentioned.
It
It's
happens.
like
Yeah, it happens.
yeah, I still play it locally. I still play it in testing. Like I'm
Brick
still I
City.
yeah, I still play a lot of Sapphire Steel. I play all the builds. I play like anything people suggest. I always try out as well. Like if a deck's done well at an event, I'll try it and see like why did it do well.
Mm-hmm.
But it's like yeah, I went down. I tried it again. I was like I'm gonna try a one dime list, and it was like 3 games in a row. I started with dime in my opening hand, and I just felt like why is this happening? This is
Mm-hmm.
so horrible. Whereas this build is like a curve build. It kind of plays in the same way that any of these curve decks will play. Like RP will want to play Chernobog, Flynn, Sisu.
Mm-hmm.
If they don't, they might play something different. Then you might play like Broom, maybe a Snake, and then they'll do something else on 3. But they will do something every turn.
Mm-hmm.
And I kind of like that this deck can do that. It's like what you optimally want is to play the Alice and the Pluto. But if not, you've got loads of other options. You've got loads of other cards you can be putting down. And it was just fun to be able to not brick anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And we still have bricks, but yeah, it felt really fine. I really like being proactive. Yeah, I just felt like Blue Steel, like the way it's built, the current one, the wheels and the
Mm-hmm.
no wheels, the reactions and the answers just aren't good enough for the Genie and the
Mm-hmm.
Daisy right now. But I still think it can have a perfectly good run. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
Justin's proved that. And there was another guy, I think his name's Justice. I was chatting to
Mm-hmm.
him at the LCQ, and he made for his LCQ pod on a no wheel list, and I saw that and it was awesome.
Mm-hmm.
And it was like, yeah, it's definitely doable. But I think as well we're at that point of Lorcana where like the card pool is so big. Um, we're not just in a color combo. This is how you play the deck.
Mm-hmm.
You've got red blue playing its burn lists as well. Steel songs have like a billion
Yep.
variants. I think green steel could be a bit more optimal with it could either be a damaged base deck or it could be a
Discard.
discard deck.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and Blue Steel now I think has the chance to play like this aggro hero-y sort of builds that I went for. So I think there's loads more variants, and I think that question of like, was this the most optimal list in that color pairing to bring? It's kind of getting a bit more open,
Mm-hmm.
and a bit more varied. So yeah, I was really happy with the list, and it's probably I'm going to continue playing Blue Steel at least in the immediate.
Yeah, I mean it worked. It works for you clearly because you took it and you were able to go 5-0, and I'm glad that you stuck with what you wanted to play and definitely paid off. And then we see a deck like Justin where it's more of like a classic New World
Mm.
list, and you definitely had some tech choices, Justin. I know you did go over it in the last video, but just in case for the people who didn't get to tune in, why did you go for strictly your New World build? I know you haven't really done too much testing into like a build like Harlan's, but with your build specifically, what made it to where like, hey, I got these new cards from this new set, and I'm gonna run with this build for this meta.
Okay, so I just want to say that it's really cool that we have like
Mm-hmm.
3 different blue steel
Mm-hmm.
lists that were present at the
Mm.
Continentals. You had Harlan's aggro version, and my friend Yarno, he's a Belgian player. He top eighted Bologna with blue steel, and he went with the Chicha build, the one
Mm-hmm.
without
Mm.
a whole new world. So, and I went with the whole new world version. So
Awesome,
it's
three
crazy
decks.
that like yeah, three
Mm-hmm.
different. There are so few blue steel players
Mm-hmm.
present at the tournament, and 3 of them had completely
Mm-hmm.
different ideas of how to build the deck, and that's pretty cool, honestly. Like, uh, so I went for a whole new world because I I was actually on the fence. Like I was considering, is it still good considering the meta could be more aggressive or things
Mm-hmm.
like that. But I think the two key things I felt was like against Ruby Amethyst, I was a lot happier when I had a whole new world because it gives me like when I played like when I tested against them and they know that I don't have it, they know that they can just draw all the cards they want
Mm-hmm.
and nothing bad would happen. They could slam friends and they don't care. And the whole new world for me helped the matchup quite a bit. And the second reason was that I noticed that blue red players, the Ruby Sapphire players, were starting to cut Quill from their deck,
Mm-hmm.
which was one of the reasons why a whole new world was terrible in the
Mm-hmm.
matchup. You would play a whole new world, but by that time they used Quill like two times, and it yeah, they draw a fresh seven and they slam you with big characters.
Mm-hmm.
So I felt that, sir, like there's like a belief that Honey Roll is bad against blue red, but without Quill, it actually is not a bad thing to do early in the game.
Mm-hmm.
It, you could have that not start and completely um,
Our
outpace
resources
them,
then.
especially
Mm-hmm.
yeah, exactly. Um, one thing about the deck that I ran, I guess it was a bit unique, was I ran the gym shift line during that day. If you call Solar Fire, because there's a scene when John Silver says goodbye to Jim, and he says that Jim, you're glowing like a solar fire.
Awesome
Um,
reference.
so yeah, Treasure Planet is so underrated.
Mm-hmm.
I really like that movie. Uh, um, but yeah, it's I like that I needed a singer that would not get mauled by Maui
Mm-hmm.
after it sings a whole new world. So
Mm-hmm.
Cogsworth is great against steel decks, but when against Ruby decks, he could die to big see-through, or when
Mm-hmm.
he sings a whole new world, they Maui it, and you're just very sad.
Mm-hmm.
While Jim is an excellent singer against Ruby because he also, unlike let's say Sad Beast, he doesn't get Medusa'd or things like that,
Mm-hmm.
and the incidental one damage has actually been relevant
Mm-hmm.
in some matchups. So I wanted that in the deck. I opted to play one Robin Hood as a tech answer to Genie. We might get into this discussion later because
Mm-hmm.
Genie seems to be the
Oh
enemy number
yes.
one.
Mm.
Oh
Blue
yes.
Steel at the like I think all the greatest minds of Blue Steel have been trying to come up with like a spicy way to get rid of Genie.
That
But yeah,
darn
that was my
genie.
thought process. Yeah.
Yeah, in no way is it supposed to be, or people shouldn't be like, oh man, but this version is better. This version is no. Like you guys both went in with the versions that were best for you, and it paid off tremendously. And again, that's super awesome to see like these three new lists, the temple list. Now you have no new world and whole new world, and that's just awesome. And I'm glad you guys took Sapphire Steel and still showed like the community that it's not a combination to be messed with. Do you guys going forward after your performance, after you saw the meta, do you still think for the NA Continentals, for the people who are traveling, LCQ, and for the tournament itself, does Blue Steel still have a chance? And with these current builds, is it really more like, okay, if you really do have a chance, do you want to go for a no new world tempo build or new world, or do you think it's just still play your best bet? Justin, if you want to start with that.
Well, I'm a bit biased because I am really a whole new world enjoyer.
Mm-hmm.
I love playing the card, but yeah, I would say that yeah, play what you're. I've always said this: play
Mm-hmm.
what you're comfortable with.
Mm-hmm.
So go with a game plan. Don't yeah, and stick with it. And yeah, Blue Steel is a deck that requires a lot of reps,
Mm-hmm.
like practice, practice, practice. It's not exactly the easiest deck to pilot, but it's one of the most rewarding.
Mm-hmm.
Like I feel like every win I get with Blue Steel, it feels earned.
Mm-hmm.
So I would say like take it to the LCQ, but it's not the type of deck that you should like the night before the LCQ where you start doubting, oh, should I swap to
Mm.
to this other deck? A
Mm-hmm.
Blue Steel probably shouldn't be that deck you should swap at the last minute. Like
Mm-hmm.
it's something that it's a commitment you gotta make.
Mm-hmm.
If you it's a commitment I have made at the very least. I decided from the start I go with Blue Steel and I stuck with it.
Yeah, and it paid off. And Harlan, your thoughts on like Blue Steel heading into NA Nats?
Yeah, I think 100% like what you're comfortable with,
Mm-hmm.
because it feels like right now, as long as it's a fairly meta deck, like as long as it's not a broom deck or something, all decks are pretty good at being able to win on the play. It's getting those wins on the draw, and comfort can sometimes help you with that.
Mm-hmm.
And it's also, say if you were to pick up the flavor of the month, like a green purple, because green purple, let's all admit, it looks very, very good right now. It's very
Mm-hmm.
well placed. But you don't know how to play the deck when it's not working properly. You know how to do the lines when it works, because anyone can learn them.
Mm-hmm.
But it's learning how to do when it doesn't work. So like as Justin said, like if the deck's gonna brick or whatever, it's how to manage that and turn that
Mm-hmm.
into a win. And you only really get that from reps, and just playing the deck lots. And yeah, I'd like to mention as well, there was a player, Primor, who qualified in Germany and brought amazing player, like one of the Blue Steel goats as well.
Hmm.
Um, he brought green purple to the event, and just afterwards, I can't remember what his actual score was, but he just wasn't pleased, and like he's testing Blue Steel again, like straight away, because yeah, it's just really is what you're comfortable
Hmm.
with. I think I'm never been the sort of player who wants to chase the top meta ones. I don't like mirrors in games.
Hmm.
And
Same.
it was actually a really upsetting time when I think it was set 4 where Blue Steel was like at its height. I
Hmm.
think it was the Bucky era, wasn't it? And it
Hmm.
was I think it was Bologna, and I did like 4 mirrors or something like that. And it's just, oh, this is so painful. Like, this is just the worst. I
Hmm.
liked that Blue Steel was always this deck where it was on the cusp of being, one of the top tier decks. So you didn't get a lot of mirrors, and as Justin said, it's so rewarding when you actually can pilot a lot.
Hmm.
And I think that keeps a lot of people off it. The lines, especially in a no wheel or a wheel list, like they're not very intuitive. You kind of have to get a lot of reps to figure out why you would do that. You could say to people, never ink this card, and then the next minute you say, okay, now you're gonna have to ink that card.
Hmm.
And it doesn't make a lot of sense why you would do it like that. But maybe if you just had the reps in it, it's so rewarding. So I definitely would say stick with Rep Blue Steel if you've got it. Um, and yeah, it's a really rewarding deck. I will admit, like Blue Steel's never won a regional.
Hmm.
We've come close.
Yep, a lot of
There is
times.
always that. Like, yeah, there is always that. Like, it's technically hasn't had the best record
Hmm.
overall, but we always place well. I mean, Justin
Hmm.
himself did really well. Um, there's been top fours, top eights. It's always linger around there. It
Hmm.
definitely has a shot. And if it's a deck you like and you feel comfortable on it, you're gonna get those bad hands, and you're
Hmm.
gonna be able to go, I know what to do with this hand. Yeah, so definitely stick with it if you want to.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, me personally, again, I will be traveling to Anaheim, California, and I'll be probably on Blue Steel. Say probably just in case people don't expect if they get to play me. Oh, this guy's definitely on Sapphire Steel. But yeah, I think New World, No New World, and your tempo build that you were able to place with all three lists are very awesome. I think for the meta, I know with NA and European, you guys didn't really have a lot of green steel, and over here it's very popular. I think with NA, we're gonna see a lot of red blue. We're definitely gonna see a lot of red purple, and we're definitely 100% gonna see a lot of Genie. What are your guys' thoughts on a card like Genie, where it's basically the new Diablo? Like we kind of seen like Diablo falling off the map secretly. Obviously, it's still such a powerful card. Like how you said, if they open up with Cove, it's really hard to remove that Diablo, and for them to be able to draw a card every turn is so strong. But a card like Genie, where they're able to quest for 2, speeds up the game, and then the health being 2/4 is crazy. What are your guys' thoughts on Genie? Is it a problem for the game? Like Diablo is, or it's just a strong card where like now you don't even have to even mention the word ban. That's way out of pocket for a card like that. And why do you think all the blue steel players are kind of like I don't know if you guys seen that SpongeBob meme of all the SpongeBobs running around in fire. Like we're throwing in Imperial Bowls. We're throwing in Zeus. Justin has the shift Robin Hood. What are you guys' thoughts on Genie for the meta and against Blue Steel? Harlan, if you want to start it off.
Yeah, I mean that genie was scary.
Mm-hmm.
There is the Diablo, that was a threat, but for me it was more the Daisy, and it was
Mm-hmm.
like, so they printed a 1/4. They can play it on turn 1, or they can play it whenever, and we can't really clear it very well. And then they never really print us any appropriate answers for that.
Mm-hmm.
And then they were like, hold on, we're not going to print any appropriate answers in this set either. But here's a 2/4. It also has evasive,
Mm-hmm.
and it quests for 2, and it draws a card.
And it's
So I was a
purple.
little bit confused why they've done all of that. Yeah, and they just still have not given like steal any 4 damage removal that's like
Mm-hmm.
quite appropriate. Like Zeus is like, I don't blame people for putting Zeus back in the
Mm-hmm.
deck. I have tried the Robin Hood. Like my first edition, I just did Cheacher no wheel, and I made room for 2 of the Robin Hoods, and I kind of liked it because it gave you some card draw as well,
Mm-hmm.
and then matchups when you needed it, because you'd always have a smaller hand size and you'd get the one card, and the 4/4's all right. But I just found people got Elsa out and they were able to play around it, and
Mm-hmm.
I hadn't gone any further with that. In the tempo build, it has no answer for Genie at all. You could maybe do some steel maths. We just race it. We have
Uh-huh.
no answer for it. But I think the approach is more that if I'm gonna go Alice into a Pluto, and you play a Genie, and now I've got an Alice that's got Ward, Pluto's got Ward, and you've only got a 2/4 Genie, because you kind of want to get their board a bit smaller. You want to deal their 1 and 2 turn characters with Calhoun and stuff
Mm-hmm.
like that, and fire the cannons, and they saw Twin Fire on the stream. which has
Mm-hmm.
been a very good card actually.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it's kind of fine because it's like Alice and Pluto together, or Quest for Four Law. You might even have to run your Genie in. You might have to crab buff Genie and run it in to touch the Alice, sorry, to like get to her. So,
Mm-hmm.
it's been really good for that. But yeah, it's been quite unrewarding that I could ramp as much as I like, but I never felt like I had an appropriate answer for the Genie. Grab your swords, fire the cannon sort of works. I never really want to get the Simba out into green purple, but the other decks I do.
Mm-hmm.
So I wouldn't say the card's a problem. They just kind of need to give us appropriate answers. That four cost action that lets them target the character was so close to being
So
good in my
close.
opinion. It was just, I mean, I don't think it's an amazing card, but just having basically a 4 damage smash was
Mm-hmm.
like, I would take that. That's better than whatever you've given us in the past.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's better cards. So even cards like Twin Fire, if Twin Fire said it could target the same thing,
Mm.
you know, I'd have taken that because let's be honest, Sapphire Steel runs with so many bricks. I've typically got a card I want to discard in my hand anyway.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I'll take that. But they just need to print appropriate answers, and I think it'll be fine. And this just leaks over from the Daisy being such a 1/4 being such a problem.
Mm-hmm. And Justin, your thoughts on the genie madness going on right now?
So I started playing Sapphire Steel in set two,
Mm-hmm.
and once upon a time, there was a card called Minnie Mouse Stylish Surfer,
Oh, I
who
remember
was
that card.
yeah, a three cost character with 1/3 that quest for two and was evasive. And this was an absolute nightmare for
Mm-hmm.
Sapphire Steel at that time.
Mm-hmm.
Like, oh, you didn't have the smash for it? I guess you're gonna get outraced.
Mm-hmm.
And worse if they drop two of them. Now, imagine you got that character, you give them one more cost, but for that additional cost, you get +1 strength, +1 willpower, and you get to draw a card.
Broken.
And yeah, that is broken. But yeah, they printed it in this set, and it's the Genie. So yeah, I feel like Genie is definitely one of the strongest cards that came out in the reset set, and you can see how like almost every purple deck is running it.
Mm-hmm.
So it is definitely a bit of a problem for Sapphire Steel, the same way Mini was a problem. But I would say that comparing it to Diablo is interesting because while Diablo is easier to kill, I feel like an unanswered Diablo will win your opponent the game
Mm-hmm.
pretty much. Whereas Genie, they could probably get away with a few quests. The problem is when they play a second Genie,
Mm.
in which case, yeah, I feel like, well, now I have to
Mm.
raise 4 lore every
Mm-hmm.
turn, which is a huge problem. So, yeah, I think like Genie um, is definitely a problem. It could be managed, but yeah, it's the same. The issue when the second Minnie Mouse was dropped was usually a problem for Blue Steel,
Mm-hmm.
and it's the same with Genie. Like the second one is probably game ending. So, if you could like have an answer for it, like yeah, the card that I think Harlan mentioned, unfortunate situation, is
Mm-hmm.
indeed an unfortunate card because it was very close.
Very close.
Yeah, I mean 4 damage, right? Perfect number. It's even inkable, but your
Mm.
opponent gets to choose.
Mm-hmm.
So like they have like some out any random
Mm-hmm.
character, and they're probably gonna throw the four
Yeah,
damage
one
at it.
hundred
And
percent.
Genie is rarely alone. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah.
And it's interesting that like Harlan had mentioned earlier, right? Like you have all the gritty Sapphire Steel players trying to figure out the answer to the Genie, and now I have you two guys here. What is the best answer to Genie? I've been testing a lot with R&B, and a shout out to Justice or kind of Justice, and every
Mm.
day pretty much talking, changing the list up, and figuring out what the perfect card is for Genie. Because Justice, he put it, he said something that really like stood out to me. He was just like, I think Sapphire Steel is potentially tier one, the best deck in the format, but it's about putting the right 60 cards together. And I think that stems from your answer to Genie. I think we have to, when we're building Sapphire and Steel, obviously, other than the Hiram package and the quills, we really want to start off with what is our answer to Genie and then build around that. And so far in our testing, really, the only best answer to something is if you can answer it directly. And you guys mentioned unfortunate situation. Unfortunately, we have a card like that. It's called Zeus, but it's uninkable. And like this card's super strong in Amber Steel, super strong in Purple Steel. But why is it that maybe in Sapphire Steel, it's like, what are we doing wrong? Because the only other direct answer to Genie, other than Zeus, is Hades, like a Hades effect, and then a straight up evasive killer. But like you said, Harlan, if you have an evasive guy on your board, since they're already playing purple, they're probably running Elsa, so they can just Elsa tap down your evasive guy and get rid of it. So really, it's just Zeus and Hades. Do you guys think those are the best answers? And if they are the best answers, what do we need to do to just end this madness that's hurting Blue Steel with the Genies? Harlan, your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think for a long time I did think it was Calhoun Bow.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember at the start, like everyone was so excited because it
Mm-hmm.
was like, oh, Calhoun hits for 5, and I
Mm-hmm.
get 2 lore. This is amazing.
Mm-hmm.
And then you play enough games where it's like this doesn't ever like line up. I keep drawing this bow that's useless for like
Mm-hmm.
70% of the game. So I don't think that was. Um, and yeah, I think probably most people come around to just it's not worth the debate. Zeus is probably a decent answer. Thing is, you got to sing it. Singing it's kind of awkward. So then you might be like, I'll add Talas in, but now you've got like between it's like 6 to 8 slots in the deck gone.
Mm-hmm.
Just to set up this thing to kill the genie, and then green just takes the Zeus out of your hand anyway
Mm-hmm.
with the Ursula. So yeah, it feels like Zeus is really our only direct answer. As I said, with the tempo build, it's basically just been ignore it
Mm-hmm.
and just try and be quicker than it. When you play low to the ground, if you've got a lot of questing power on board, uh, just being quicker and their turn is play a 2/4 that quests for 2, it can tend to be that you will out tempo them and just will be quicker. So if you went Alice Pluto into a Cogsworth, like that's an insane board.
Mm-hmm.
You're getting so much lore every turn, and they've set up their 2/4, and they might double Genie, but they're only going to be getting 4 lore a turn.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, for the standard sort of blue steel, I think it just really has to be Zeus. And I don't know, I say that sheepishly. I say that in a bit of a shy way because I wish there was like, no, there's this card. Do you remember this card in set one? This we'll bring that back, and it's really good. I just don't think there is one. I think a lot of the time as well, you can just manage the steel maths, which is like grab your swords and a fire, the cannons will kill
Mm-hmm.
it, and you might, quintessentially kill other things as well. But yeah, I'd really love a 4 damage action, to be honest with you. But right now, it's either Zeus or fire the cannons, Simba, grab your swords, make the maths up for it and deal with it that way. Because you really want to be doing this in an organic, natural way. You don't want to
Mm-hmm.
be forcing cards into the deck. That's why I've never really liked Smash.
Mm-hmm.
It never felt great.
It's
But
too
yeah.
slow. And then,
Yeah, if we got the 4 cost action, I'd probably use it because
mm-hmm.
it would answer it, but I would still hate myself for using it as
Mm-hmm.
well at the same time.
No, I agree. It's definitely like a tempo loss. Justin, adding on to that, with Zeus and Harlan mentioned, like it's double ping effects, with fire the cannons, twin fire swords. Again, same question, but adding on to, do we add in 4 swords? Are we going 4 Zeus, 4 swords? What are we doing?
So, yeah, the one thing about Blue Steel is you have to manage your uninkable count.
Mm-hmm.
And I really, really like Zeus as a card. I feel like right now it's better than Let It Go, in my view. There, it hits a lot of good targets, but we also have to consider why Zeus is played a lot in decks like Amber Steel. Amber Steel can get away with singing it with Vanessa or with any of the shift cards, and that's huge.
Mm-hmm.
Like the tempo they get from doing that is massive.
Mm-hmm.
I wish I could do the same with Shift Gym, personally, in a perfect world. But unfortunately, Shift Gym is an uninkable
Mm-hmm.
card, and so is Zeus. And we're a deck that wants to run fewer uninkables because we are running cards like Sail.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a bit of tension. As Arlen mentioned, the only singer at the moment we have is, well, at 4 is um like Hiram.
Mm-hmm.
And if you have Hiram in play, you're already doing good. So
Mm-hmm.
basically, you're
Drawing
already
cards
kind of in
and
a good
singing
position.
Zeus. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and seeing it's Zeus, like, right, you're doing everything already, which is great. And what else could we play? Could we play Grand Matala? But then we have that space issue where we're playing
Mm-hmm.
a deck with 8 cantrips or 8 obstacle effects, which already takes up 8 spots in our
Mm-hmm.
deck. And we're gonna run more cards than Dig. I'm a visions enjoyer, so I'm already running more
More
cycling.
cantrips.
It's
Uh
like
huh.
I'm doing so much, right? Like so much air. And sometimes you don't have time to play like
Mm-hmm.
all these dirty cards when your like purple opponent is like questing with their small Diablos or getting
Mm-hmm.
all these lore with genies. So Zeus is great. I do think that I've been testing it as well, and it's been nice. But yeah, we have to. consider like what is the best time to play it. We usually skip turn 4 with Sapphire Steel because we usually ramp with Quill ideally. If we had like, I feel like for whole new world builds, it's nice because your singers who can sing a whole new world can also sing Zeus. But at the same time, yeah, we have to figure out like what like where we cut our unequal spots. Like, do we trim on aerials on this? Do we trim on fire the cannons? Do we miss out on twin fire? And I think like playing four Zeus and four swords is a bit much.
It's a lot. It's a lot of steel removal. So it basically sounds like we have three answers. Harlan mentioned you can either outrace them, whether it's Pluto and Atlas, or like an aerial play, aerial into dime, something like that. You just okay, you put your genie, I'm gonna put down my genie, but mine's gonna quest way faster than you. And then second answer being Zeus, and the third one being like swords and ping effects. Oh, and then how Harlan mentioned earlier, I do like that you mentioned the Imperial bow, right? Because you could play a bow, and then you have awesome two drop lineups, so where you can play Jim and Calhoun. If if someone came up to you and said, "Hey, my LCQ tomorrow Nats, I want to answer the genie. Tell me right now, what do you think is the best way to do it? Just real quick. If you had to pick one of those four options, which one would you pick, Harlan?
Yeah, if you've got a standard sort of ramp blue steel, it's definitely I think just add some Zeus in, because it's unlikely going to happen. But if you were to put the bow in and then not go against the genie sort of deck, and then you've just got this dead card in your
Mm-hmm.
deck, whereas Zeus is never really going to be a dead card. There's always
Mm-hmm.
a target to kill with Zeus. Yeah, I think it definitely increase your counts of Zeus if you're worried about the genie.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but yeah, also as well, I think there's a good call for if they've only really got the genie questing on board and you can kill the bonsais, the merfolks, and everything else around it, you can kind of let them have the two lore and then just do your own thing.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, just to your original point, just Zeus. I think increase your counts of Zeus.
Justin, do you agree with that? Because you said you like the Zeus right now.
Yep, I do the same. But yeah, just manage your uninkables. Like cards like Calhoun are, for example, amazing.
Mm.
Like she's one of the best two drops, but she's uninkable.
Mm-hmm.
So like, just be sure that you trim at the right spot. I am in the current list I'm testing. I'm playing two Zeus. So far, it's been all right. But with unlike Harlan, I'm playing a whole new world, so there's always the risk that you'll have that uninkable song fiesta where you
Mm.
have all the uninkable songs in your hand, and you'll wish like, why am I doing this to
Mm-hmm.
myself?
You guys
Mm.
mentioned uninkables, so is there a conversation to where Tipo comes into back into the deck, or do you think Sail is just overall just a way better card because you're able to ramp and then play Fire the Cannons, or maybe potentially if you do it on turn 3 you can play a 2 drop. Do you guys think Tipo comes back in? Because I know you played against Nails. Shout out Nails from the 20 Pro Lord Discord. He was a
Mm.
heavy on Tipo because he had a high uninkable count. Have you guys tested Tipo again, or do you just think Sail is just such a strong card? Whoever would like to answer that one.
Yeah, oh, Justin, to go first.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, sure. So I like that Sail is a great top deck to have, whereas
Mm-hmm.
Tipo always feels miserable.
Mm-hmm.
But I feel there are two main arguments for playing Tipo. So one is exactly that. If you want to play a higher uninkable count, Tipo can fix some
Mm-hmm.
glut hands. The second is that I've noticed that Lady Tremaine seems to have become more popular
Mm.
in some Ruby decks,
Hmm.
and Tipo is a yeah, like just having this random child to sacrifice to
Mm-hmm.
Lady Tremaine is nice.
No.
So yeah, it feels cruel, but
Mm-hmm.
yeah, it protects your Tamatoa.
Mm-hmm.
It's great. And yeah, it used to be one of the best things we had against like Ruby Amethyst playing stuff like B
Mm-hmm.
King, and that could be the main argument for having Tipo again
Mm-hmm. You, Harlan?
for me.
Yeah, I think because we were so quick, I was still on Mickey, and I, of course played Tippo as well.
Mm-hmm.
I think we were so quick to just drop that random character, and sometimes the Tremaine effect is a big reasoning for
Mm-hmm.
it. But sometimes as well, it was just nice to have like, oh, and I just need one damage. Oh, that's great. I've got this thing on board that can hit it for one
Mm-hmm.
damage,
And gain
and
lore.
or
Mm-hmm.
yeah, or just
Yeah.
gain lot. And it's just sometimes in TCG, it's just nice to have stuff on the board.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't have to be impressive. It just needs to be something on the board. So that was always good. Sale, in my testing, I don't think I could play a deck that went above 15 uninkables. I think
Mm-hmm.
I even wanted it at 14. It just felt like over the course of 100 games, it wasn't consistent enough. You had enough bad games to the point where you were even afraid to play the sale in case you bricked the hand and then lost the game there and then. So yeah, but it's insanely better top deck. You top deck a Tippo or a Mickey, and you're like, this is even one jump ahead. You're like, this is worthless. Like, but sale is just go to the next card. So it was really good for that. Um, I don't know where I saw a lot of lists dropping Quill recently, which confused me.
Yeah,
Made me
that's
feel
a
like a
big no
boomer
no.
in my it made me feel like a boomer in my own color combo because I was like, I've been playing this curve different build, and then I was looking at like blue steel lists with no Quill, and I was like, what? They were basically playing like red blue. And I was like,
Yeah,
I guess that's
exactly.
yeah. And at that point, I'm like, why not just play red blue? Because you could just yeah, it just makes more sense to me. But yeah, I could definitely see Tipo coming back. Or yeah, any way to get the uninkables out of the hand. There was it was very interesting with set 6 where it was like Calhoun, Twin Fire. I wasn't a fan of Twin Fire at the start, but now I love it.
Same.
Jim, and there was loads of cards where it was just like these are great, but they're all uninkable, and my deck is already like at the brim of uninkable, and I don't want to cut half of them, and especially if it's a wheel list, like so much of that has to be in the deck for it to work. Um, so yeah, it was just so interesting. Yeah, getting uninkables out of the hand is brilliant. I think Quill has to stay for that reason. So anyone who's on these newfangled RB light lists, like um, Quill, I think needs to stick around, and Tipo definitely like. And as well with Blue Steel, there's sometimes that confidence thing, and if you're just very unconfident and you keep thinking you're brick a lot, then try Tipo out, and see if you just play better from that aspect. Maybe you do aggressive mulligans and that's what keeps screwing up your hand or whatever. Try it out. I think all the options, all the ramp options, I call them the alternative ramp options because Quill is the one we need. All the other ones, like they're very valid. Like they've all got their own strengths to them. So yeah, definitely worth trying.
Yeah, I think definitely there's a possibility where if people want to, they can do like a 2-2 split maybe. But again, like how you mentioned, if people are having trouble with your inkables, work on your mulligan. Try to value what you think you need in the opening hand, which really is just like a 2 drop and a 1 drop play, and then your quill. And really, like if again the issue of the uninkables, maybe we see Tipo come back, but again, Sale being able to draw a card late game is very strong. And you mentioned Quill, and the other day in testing, I was going against shout out to the Labyrinth boys, Wonderland, who did win DLC Seattle, and I was testing against him, and he was actually on Amber Steel, and against him, I had Quill out, and he is a number one. He absolutely hates that card. He thinks Quill is just such a strong broken card. Like you're just able to double ink every turn, and you can while your opponent's at 6 ink, you have 12, right? You have so much more ink than your opponent. With the deck like Sapphire Steel, you have the cards like Swords. You have big bodies like Tinkerbell, Simba that you could play, Tamatoa. You have a card like Ariel. You have these really strong 2 drops, Calhoun, Smee, again, Swords, Fire the Cannon, Zeus. It all sounds so good, but like what's missing? Like what's missing? Why is this not just destroying everything? Like Sapphire Steel has always been good into Amber Steel. Yes, they have the Daisy now, but with these new aggro versions, you can literally just wipe the board with like a Swords. Mind you, if they play Pete, that does counteract with you. But you have those cards like Quill. You have bigger threats that they can't get rid of. Red Purple, they're dropping locations now, and Sapphire Steel had a problem against locations, and now they're gone. Like yes, they have Genie, but 4 health compared to 7 health is very different. And then red blue, they're dropping Quill. And then green purple, where we did have a super favorable matchup last set, again, is getting a little bit more on their 50-50 because they have a card like Genie, but we were already good into that matchup. What is Sapphire still missing that's not like dominating it to where it should be? Your thoughts on that, Harlan?
Yeah, so I think red purple, like our matchup shaped up are phenomenally better because there's no threat to the locations, which is like, oh, we either had to try deal them or ignore them and race them, and it was always painful. And the good thing with that deck is like, if you really don't like a Genie, just play a bunch of stuff on the board and make them be prep
And Pete, you
and
got Pete.
reset the board. Yeah, you can play Pete, and like they don't have a Merfolk. Like they aggressively quest, but not as big as the green purple does. I find they're not doing insane lore, then they're not going to go and get a bunch of reach. So I find that matchup pretty decent. Steel Song, yeah, the deck if it is to go sort of a line of Daisy into Smee into Lawrence, like that's going to be a lot of lore before I deal with it.
Mm-hmm.
And especially on the draw, that's going to be a lot of lore before I deal with it.
Mm-hmm.
So it can be quite a hard matchup. But I've seen a lot of them go to more control builds with the Vanessa, which
Mm-hmm.
for us, I quite enjoy because you just miss the 2-drop ramp and put like a symbol or something big in
Mm-hmm.
Cogsworth, and they've only played
Exactly.
cheap
Yeah.
questers on the board.
Mm-hmm.
So that matchup's fine. Because we got to see Candio's Dwarf's Minds build very recently, like the other day. I think that's going to be everywhere. I'd feel fairly confident into it, but I
Mm-hmm.
also feel it's
Same.
going to be
Same.
quite a quick deck.
Mm-hmm.
So that could be a problem for us. But yeah, the issue we have with Steel versus Red is Red's clunky with its removal. Like Brawl, sometimes you don't want to pay 3 to remove something that costs 1. And sometimes you want to play 6 with Medusa, and sometimes you don't want to kill everything with B prep. But at least it does the job. Whereas, we've got removal where it's like Fire the Cannons kills a certain amount of cards,
Mm-hmm.
but not everything, like we said with the Genie and the Daisy and stuff like that. So it does always feel like we're a little bit behind on those things. But yeah, I think as you said, your friend of yours, Justice, which I got to meet as well, is a lovely guy.
Mm-hmm.
I think there's a certain combination of cards here that's just better than the rest.
Mm-hmm.
We just need to figure it out, really.
Interesting. Justin.
So I remember when I picked up Sapphire Steel for the first time, I was like, "Wow, this deck has no weaknesses. It can do everything. Like we can ramp, we can draw a million cards,
Uh-huh.
we can remove items, we can remove locations. Like take for example, like Ruby Amethyst has the obvious weakness that they don't have a way to deal with items. So
Mm-hmm.
Lucky Dime exploits this, but we have removal. We seem to have everything, but I was wrong. There is one clear weakness of Sapphire Steel. It's that multiple characters that have high willpower on the
Mm-hmm.
board
Mm,
present a big issue for us.
Mm-hmm.
This is why Genie is kind of a problem
Mm-hmm.
for us because like he has 4 willpower, and if there are 2 of them, yeah, good luck with that.
Mm-hmm.
You can have you can hope for double swords, but and you can think, oh, why don't I just play 4 swords? But there will be a lot of times where you'll have double swords and you face like Ruby Sapphire and you'll be
Mm-hmm.
like, why am I doing this? um, so yeah, that was the as like Harlan mentioned when Ruby or sorry when Amber Steel was running curve of like Daisy into
Mm-hmm.
I don't know double Daisy or Vanessa into
mm,
Lawrence and you're like oh well these fire the cannons look pretty bad right now
Mm-hmm.
I can't I can't kill anything that was a problem but yeah I would feel like if Blue Steel or had a cleaner way to deal with higher tough like higher multiple higher willpower characters if we had a like a board wipe other than grab your sword it would like push us to like all the way to the top it would
Mm-hmm.
be insane but you can't have everything if we don't have B prep blue red has like B prep and that's one of the key defining differences between Sapphire Steel and Ruby Sapphire so while the deck can do a lot of things, if it's admittedly this is one shortcoming of playing blue steel, and you have to accept that you can't have a
Mm-hmm.
perfect color combination. Every color combination has its strengths and weaknesses.
Yeah,
mm.
at that point we'd be tier 0, and then everyone would be on Sapphire Steel, and we do not want that. We want to keep Sapphire Steel low key as it is. But I think you guys brought up some amazing points on like what the weakness is to Sapphire Steel, and me like as I was listening to that. That already affects my deck building. You guys mentioned two very important things, right? The willpower and then being able to answer Genie. So in my head, I'm already thinking of Swords, Zeus, maybe even potentially bringing back Argus to counter Lawrence, to counter Daisy. So much chemical reaction going on to where like really I do think that there is a build. We just need to find it. And hopefully I get to find it soon for Nats. But overall, I think Sapphire Steel is in a good spot, and it's so awesome to see the three builds. I think we definitely were able to talk about how each build in its own way, the strength and weaknesses, and overall, I think Sapphire Steel is a good choice for people who want to take it to the LCQ. Definitely in the best of 3 format. It's a really strong choice, and just really happy to where Sapphire Steel is. And then next set, hopefully it's even better with more support. Just to close this out real quick, I just want to hear you guys' just predictions for NA Continentals. What you guys think is gonna win. who you might think make day two or anything like that. I think that's something really interesting that people might want to hear from your guys is coming from the EU side of things. Because we did have the LCCC. Shout out to Pavel and them for this awesome tournament. We got to see that European North American clash. And again, you see a lot of red blue. You see a lot of green steel. What are you guys' predictions for NA Nats? Justin, if you want to start with that.
Well, I felt for Continentals, people were generally going with safe choices.
Hmm.
Like most of the main archetypes were represented. I think Harlan, you might have brought the spiciest deck in the tournament, in my view. like it's crazy that you played against somebody who actually tested against aggro blue
Yeah.
steel. I'm sure you caught people off guard with that list. Like
Hmm.
they're like, wait, how does blue steel have this much lore so early in the game? This is
Wait a
crazy.
minute, there's no new world happening.
Yeah, there was a good interview. The guy played in round four at the LCQ. He was on Zan's podcast, and he was like, "Yeah, I just didn't really know what was happening after each turn. Like, I didn't really know the cards. Like, and then that kind of affects what they ink.
Hmm.
Like, I probably don't need this Maui. Oh wait, this Pluto's got ward. I kind of needed that Maui now. So yeah, yeah. I think there's always value in bringing spice as well. You've seen other people do that before, with, like the Steel Song Locations deck
Hmm.
that was in Seattle. I think it got top 16 in the end or
Hmm.
top
Hmm.
32. Like that stuff's really cool. It always catches people off guard.
What do you think? What do you
Yeah,
think is
so maybe
gonna? What do you guys think is gonna win, Hutchison? What do you think is gonna win NA Nats?
ooh, tough question. Like
If you
I
had
am
to put money
hoping
on it,
that
if you had
somebody
to
would
put money on it, what color combination is gonna win?
so like deep down, I hope somebody brings a spicy list that I
Okay,
haven't thought
I
about.
like it. I
That would
like
be
it.
amazing. But like of course that's my hope. And I hope maybe Blue Steel wins this for once. But if I had to put money on it, I would probably guess like I I don't know, Ruby Amethyst. People always think it's bad, then it just wins the tournament.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I don't know how they keep doing this. They keep getting away with this. But yeah, if I probably put money in, I think that the like Ruby Amethyst players who are very like into the deck
Hmm.
are very skilled with how they play it. So it wouldn't be like
A
beyond
surprise.
belief. Yeah, exactly. If they were to somehow again pull
Hmm.
this another win out of nowhere.
Do you agree with that, Harlan, or do you have a different contender you think might take it?
Yeah, I really think Ruby Amethyst has a shot. As again, everyone like, I know Blue Steel players doom their deck. Ruby, if you ever talk to a Ruby Amethyst player,
Hmm.
oh my god, they doom that deck. You know,
Hmm.
beyond belief. They said every minute they'll say how dead it is, and then
Hmm.
it wins everything.
Hmm.
It wins all the store champs. It wins all of the DLC. Well, not all of them, but it wins a lot of events.
Hmm.
Um, I think there's also I don't know where this divides came from. I don't know, cultural or whatever. But like when Americans watch the EU, they're always like, oh wow, green purple's really popular in Europe, and then we go back to NA and we're like, oh wow, green steel's really popular in America,
Hmm.
which it seems to be really popular. And then you watch a bunch of European events, and you just don't see it really represented. I don't know why. We just don't really like discard. It does turn up. There was a guy who made top 16 with green steel. Like it's still around, the same way green purple's still around the NA. But I think there's a lot of people cooking up some insane green steel lists that I think green steel has a really good shot of winning it. Discard is when in a card game where having card advantage, that's
Hmm.
any card game, is such a positive. If you're a discard deck, you have a really good shot against an entire field because you just take the cards out of their hand.
Hmm.
So I think green steel is in a really good position to maybe win it.
Yeah, especially if you put someone like Zan behind that deck.
Mm.
Um, it's really interesting, like how you guys both mentioned, like red purple is really 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 strong. So maybe there's a world where a deck that counters that, like you said, green steel, or maybe a deck like purple steel can come out the
Mm.
shadows and just dominate. So it's really super exciting to see. I personally do think that an amethyst deck is gonna win. So whether it's green purple or red purple, that's what if I had to put my money on it, I would probably say red purple just because of how consistent it's been every set. And you have players like No I'm Not who are gonna use that deck to showcase how strong it is. But I think right now Lorcana is just in an awesome state. The game is super healthy for a card like Diablo, where everyone wanted to ban it, and then now kind of just quiet. It just kind of shows how the meta is transferring. So I think again, like it's gonna be awesome to see what happens. I'm really looking forward to it. And just to close off this awesome podcast episode, just if you guys just want to recap anything of how your 2024 experience went, or anything that you want to say, and then if you just want to add some shout outs to that, Harlan, if you want to start that off.
Yeah, yeah, and actually, very quickly, I just an honorable mention of what might win the event.
Mm-hmm.
The deck seems to lose to everything but Blurple, because
Spicy.
in a Genie war, when you can play Genie on turn 3, like it just wins that, doesn't it? You know,
Uh huh.
because you get to go Tipo Sail into Genie. So like against all the other purple decks, Blurple's actually really, really strong, but it's still Song and its red blue is really weak. So you'd made a really good run on the day. But I just want to mention Blurple, this might be a set where we see some good Blurple runs.
That sounds
But yeah,
spicy, like Justin said. Yeah.
uh, you know what? Like TCGs, you need the matchups, you need a
Mm-hmm.
good run on the day. I could see a Purple player getting 7 rounds versus
Mm-hmm.
other purple decks and just genieing on 3 every game and just like getting themselves
Mm-hmm.
into the win. So yeah, I think is noteworthy to mention that deck. But yeah, it's been a really amazing year for me with the TCG. Like sort of started off like with my YouTube channel and everything. Like
Mm-hmm.
I just got loads of questions in 20 lore about like Blue Steel, and I was like, I'll just do one video on it, and it was like, oh, this has got 1,000 views. I'll just do another one, and like it seems to have blossomed into this thing, and I'm just really grateful for it. And yeah, it was like TCG performance is great, and this is like the first one where I've got into a very good testing group. Like I really trust everything they say,
Mm-hmm.
and I think for anyone out there who like wants to play at a very high or wants to keep progressing their like performance in TCGs, getting a testing group or getting like people you really respect. If they say, "Hey, I went away and did the numbers on this game, we don't want to play this card," and you can actually you believe them, you respect their choice,
Mm-hmm.
then you don't have to test out or like you can just take that information in. It's been really helpful for me. So like massive respect to everyone I met in my testing group. And that's sort of been the best part of it as well because we're all quite friends as well now, and just get along really well. So yeah, it's been an amazing year for me. All the events have been fun. Excited for more Lorcana.
And you were able to come to the States too. I'm not sure if that was your first time. Was that I know that experience was awesome. I was able to meet you in person, and that's really cool. How like this card game, it gets to we get to travel the world, travels to different places. So again, awesome for you to come to the States. Do you have any shout outs that you want to give out?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, yeah, it was really good to go to the States. One person checked my passport because they thought I wasn't British. They thought I was faking an accent, which was like the funniest thing. But yeah, it was just like when you do YouTube, you get like a bit of revenue and a little bit here. And I was like, I think I could fund a trip to America. So I'm just really grateful, and that's been amazing for that. So yeah, I really liked it. I mean, shout out everyone in my testing group,
Mm-hmm.
SLTC. Justin Shadows is what they go by on Discord. They were the one who made this curve list. Really great players like Ray and Fumbles and stuff like
Mm-hmm.
that I've just played countless games with, and just everyone in that group just are really amazing, and everyone locally as well, like my friend Becca, who has to. I mean, bless her, how many times she's had to play into Blue Steel is beyond me. She
Mm-hmm.
really knows the RP into Blue Steel matchup at this point because she's played it
Mm-hmm.
every week, for about 5 hours. But it's just really grateful everyone's got the time, and yeah, it's just a few people that honored really to meet through this hobby.
Awesome. I'm glad you were able to come to the States. Again, secure your LCQ finish to get that invite to the Nats EU Continentals. And awesome. Congrats to you on your YouTube journey and career. And I know it'll keep growing. Justin, for you, you ended off at a 20th place finish. How would you like to recap your 2024 year? And then again, any shout outs that you want to give. And congrats to your big accomplishment that I know you'll get into on being a Golden Mickey winner.
So I really love how Lorcana launched, like Lorcana really launched last year,
Mm-hmm.
but I feel like the set championships and the challenges really elevated the game. It
Mm-hmm.
it not well not just for the competition, but just seeing all these so many like 2,000 Lorcana players in the same place who all love the game and are very passionate about it. It really gives you that sense of community that
Mm-hmm.
you see on a huge scale. Um, I love the challenges for that reason. Even the community has been great I remember during the LCQ, I was watching Harlan's like last match against purple steel,
Mm.
and when he won, I really wanted to shout like, let's go, like
Heck
we got it.
yeah.
But like I was so happy for him. And I wanted to, but the other people were playing the game, so I didn't want to disturb them.
Hmm.
But
Oh, bless
yeah,
you.
like honestly, it's been so nice making all these like friends from around the world, and traveling to different cities to play the game and see people. It's Yeah, winning is great, but it might be like cheesy to say like the real win is the friends you make along the way.
Oh,
But
Very Disney
yeah.
said.
yeah, 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 it's very Disney-ish, but honestly, I really felt like Lorcana has been um, a great boost
Hmm.
to my life. I've really enjoyed all the different aspects of it, and I'm very proud of winning the Golden Mickey and making it all the way to Continentals. But I feel like if it weren't for having so many amazing players to test against or to just talk about Disney with,
Hmm.
and it wouldn't have been as fun without that. So yeah, great game. Thank you, Ravensburger and Disney, for making this amazing card game.
Awesome, man. Yeah, I personally had an awesome year. I was able to travel to Seattle, travel to Vegas, travel to here in Texas where I live, and then now I'm gonna be able to travel to California. It's been a truly awesome year being able to meet players from across the world, like your guys' self. Like I'm talking to people, someone from the Netherlands, talking, to you guys from Europe, and that's just super awesome. How this community has, how this game has shown how this community can be. And to me, my experience for 2024 was awesome. I'm gonna have a really good time ending it off and meeting again these players in person. And really, I see good things for Lorcana for 2025. And I hope you guys stay in the game and continue your success and have a way better year than you guys had. Because yeah, like it's just super awesome. You guys are super awesome, and it's super awesome to meet everyone in the Sapphire and Steel community. But yeah, I do very much appreciate you guys coming onto the channel. I know a lot of Sapphire and Steel players are going to be very super excited to hear you guys' thoughts on the deck, the meta, and your guys' success. If you guys ever want to come back on the channel again, I'll be happy to have you guys back on. And yeah, thank you guys for coming on, man. Shout out to you guys, and shout out to everyone for watching. And again, congrats to you guys on your run, and thank you for coming on to the podcast.